How's it going, all you Minties? Uncanny Omar here from Near Mint Condition, the home of collected editions. And join me today for your overview of the Spawn Origins Deluxe Edition slipcases 1 through 5 from Image Comics. So let's go ahead and get started. And welcome back, everybody. So here are all 5 of the Spawn Deluxe Edition slipcases. And these were recently reprinted. Image had them solicited throughout December, but they are all out now. All the reprints of 1 through 4 and the brand new one, number 5. Each of these are $100 with the exception of Volume 5. That one is $99.99. Not sure why. So we're going to take a closer look at each of these particular volumes. Not really talking about the story. If you want to see more of an in-depth overview of Spawn and what the stories are about, I did that about 2 years ago with the hardcovers, and that's kind of how this journey all got started. Got to meet with Tom McFarlane and had an interview with him, and hey, here we are with the reprints and a brand new Volume 5. So let's go ahead and start talking about Volume 1, I'm going to crack it open. We're going to crack all these open and check out the artwork and the build and see what extra goodies are in there. But before we do that, I do want to do a size comparison because we are talking about a slipcase. So just so you can get an idea of how big these are, here it is compared to a compendium, which is the trim size of a trade paperback, which are the trim sizes of single issues, floppies. So it's a lot bigger. Now, compared to the size of the Origins hardcovers. And the Origins hardcovers, to kind of give you an idea how big these are, in case you're wondering, they are as tall as Omnis. So for example, this is a Marvel Omnibus right here, and it's just as tall as that. Meaning this is bigger. Now, of course, that's in its slipcase. We're going to take it out here in a little bit to kind of give you an idea. But even inside of the slipcase, you can tell the book is bigger than your Omnis. And, of course, the hardcover of Origins. But that's to kind of give you an idea how big this is. The box and the book are just a slightly bit smaller than your Absolute editions. So, here's to give you a better idea of how much taller, which is just slightly taller, an Absolute edition is compared to these Deluxe editions. And an Absolute edition is also just a little bit longer, too. And here are the slipcases without the books in there, so you can see just it's a little bit taller and just a little bit longer, the slipcase, than the Spawn Origins. Now, I do that because people want to know how big it is and whether it can fit inside of their shelves, their K-laxes. No patterns or anything on the inside. It's just black with a cloth feel. No, it's not even cloth. It just looks like it. It's just a cardboard box. The bottom is where you get the ISBN. And nothing at the top. How big is it compared to one of those library editions from Dark Horse Comics, in case you don't have absolutes? Well, it's just about the same height as the library editions. The Hellboy, the Goon library editions, the Harrow County, the Nocturnals. It is just about the same height. However, Hellboy being one of the books that are longer than the other library editions, is just a little longer than this one. But not every library edition is the same. For example, the latest library edition from Dark Horse, Blackwood, is just a little bit taller than the Spawn Deluxe edition, and about the same length, so just a little bit taller. So my point is that every book has just about a different dimension from different publishers, but I want to kind of give you an idea of how big this book is. Now we need to talk about the elephant in the room, and that is this actual book, the details on the slipcases and the book on the inside. And in order to show you that, gotta get the old Lazy Susan, I can't believe it's actually called that, the Lazy Susan out. So as you can tell as the book spins here on the Lazy Susan, that the actual skull on the front has kind of a glossy finish to it. And it's in the front and back of the book. While this almost has a flat matte finish to it. Now, one of the biggest questions I'm always asked, and it makes sense, right? As a collector, as a reader, how in the world do you read these type of books that are just black like this and what we call thumbprint magnets? The same way I read all the other books. I realize that there are collectors out there that keep their books sealed, and I'm not putting them down at all. I think, you are entitled to do with whatever you want to with your books. It is your money. I like to read these things. I like to make sure that everything is printed the way that it should be. I like to test out the paper and the stretching out the spine, and these will need it, and I'll show you why. So these are going to get fingerprints all over them. You can read them with white gloves. I've seen people do that. I just don't see myself. I've never been that type of person that get white gloves out and read a book. It's bad enough I have to get my glasses out to start reading these days. I'm not going to get a pair of white gloves. But if you're like that, if you want to preserve your books, because they are expensive, I mean, we talked about each one of these being $100, then absolutely do that. I will say these books, even though they come wrapped in plastic, each one of these, there are going to be some scuff marks. There are going to be some markings like this that just came from the printer, that came from the factory like that. I don't know if you can see that, but there's a little bit of scuff mark up there. I'm sure some of you all probably saw my volume 1. Let's get that back up there. And saw this big dent. Yeah, came from the actual distribution like that. So it's just one of these books that's easy to tell the damages on. We have books that have white, yellow on them. It's a little harder to tell, but with these books, you're going to be able to tell how much of damage there are. Scuff marks here. This, of course, you send back. And I know people that have. When I first got the first printing of these, I had volumes 1 and 2, and I decided to go with the complete collections because they seem to be focusing on those Origins hardcovers more. But I remember getting it from Amazon the very first time, the volume 1, and it had a big, dent in it. And I was like, well, I'll return it. Then when I got the other copy that they sent me, it was a dent on another location, so I returned that, and they finally gave me one that just had scuff marks, and I can live with that. But I understand that, some people can't. But this is what the book looks like, and again, it's going to be one of those fingerprint magnets. Let me get it out of its slipcase so you can see what it looks like underneath. Again, the same kind of semi-gloss finish to the skull, and each of the skull's eyes has a different color. Like this one's more yellow than that neon green they're using for volume 1, purple for volume 5, and we'll be looking at each one of those here in a second. But I wanted to give you an idea of this, markings like that. I mean, that was inside of the book. How that happened, I don't really know. So yeah, this kind of gives you an idea of what to expect from these books. All right, we're going to crack this one open and talk about the build of these, looking at each one of these, and of course comparing it to the previous versions. So let's get the cracking. That's so stupid. Let's just open the book. So you can see here are the little skull designs that Spawn has on his cape, that he has on his belt. But I had a hard time seeing these when I was reading them upstairs near my night table because, well, down here, as I've explained before, I have 2 big bright lights shining on the books. Sometimes a light from up above, or I'm sorry, from over that corner, just to get rid of that gloss so you can focus on the art. Because if you have a light like that's up here, just gloss all over the place. However, it's almost near impossible to do it with some books, depending on the type of paper stock they're using, and of course, how much black there is. Todd McFarlane Image Comics presents Spawn, trademark, Origins Collection Deluxe Edition 1, collecting issues 1 through 25. And Spawn. So remember that, collecting issues 1 through 25. So the biggest question I had when I got to talk about these reprints was, hey, will they be able to collect the Angela's first appearance or the Cerebus issue in issue 10? Yes to both. Yes to both. Because if you look here, stories, Todd McFarlane, issue 8 by Alan Moore, issue 9 by Neil Gaiman, means Angela, and issue 10, Dave Sim, Cerebus issue. Then, of course, the Frank Miller issue, the Grant Morrison issues, Tom Orzechowski and Andrew Grossberg. The pencils, of course, being 90% Todd McFarlane, then Greg Capullo, Mark Silvestri when they switched books there. The inks over here by Todd McFarlane, Dan Panosian and Art Thibert, Mark Pennington and Billy Tan and Bat. And then the covers, including the cover by Mark Silvestri and Greg Capullo. So really the biggest thing that's missing from here is, of course, the thing we didn't think was going to be able to be printed in these type of books, and that is the Batman Spawn issues, even though at first it was in continuity. And then later on, they went back with those Greg Capullo Houdini issues and said that's how that marking on his face happened. So there we go. There is an introduction, not by Todd McFarlane. I don't know who actually writes these introductions, as it just speaks of Todd McFarlane and where he was in life when all this started. So it seems like somebody at Todd McFarlane Production actually wrote that. But this is what the artwork looks like, of course, from issue number 1. And as I've said many times, or just once, I don't know why I said many times. Let's zoom out to here a little bit so you can see this. And what I meant is that I I did a thorough overview of the 10 deluxe editions that were out the Origins hardcovers that were out at the time. If you want to know like a little more about the story and what this was for Image Comics. This is mainly me just showcasing the artwork, and I will be doing a little comparison and then looking at the extras that are all the way in the back. This book, again, retails for $100, and it has 620 pages. And the paper stock of this is this thick, glossy paper that they're using. I used to have volumes 1 and 2, and I feel like it's the same paper stock. Although my volume 2 had some bad binding, and I thought it was because of the paper stock they used. It was too heavy, so the book started like coming apart from the actual ribbon. This, it might be a little thinner, but if anybody has the first printing of these, I would love to know if you got the new printings, if the paper stock is the same or not. Please leave those comments down below. So in here are the first 25 issues of Spawn, so you get to meet Spawn, Al Simmons, of course, Wanda, Terry, Cyan, let's call her Cyan, and a lot of his villains, right? Like you get to meet the Violator, the Clown. Are they the same person? Maybe. You get to see the Anti-Spawn later on, renamed the Redeemer. You see Angela in here because, like I mentioned, Magalabola, forgot about that. But as I mentioned, issue 9, this is the way the covers are collected, and then you get the full cover, just like they did in the Origins Collections hardcovers. But issue 9 is intact. This is the Neil Gaiman issue that introduces us to that young lady right there. Not just her, but also Medieval Spawn. And later on, they had a mini-series, actually. And then you've got, I forgot to mention this, the issue number 10, including why there was no previous collection of issue number 10 in previous collections. Why it was left out of previous collections, whether they were the hardcovers or whether they were the trade paperbacks. And it's a forward by Dave Sim, who, of course, is the creator of Cerebus and is the writer of issue number 10. But if you're wondering, that was collected in this, the hardcover collection. So this, for the longest time, was the one to have. This was the book that collected everything. We'll do a little comparison here in a little bit, but I did want to show that this is in here, and this has some really cool scenes. But you also get to meet, in these particular issues, the character of, I think I skipped him a little bit, there he is, Overkill, this guy right here. Always like that scene, right? You're talking about Superman, Wolverine right there. It was pretty interesting, but it talks about the whole comic book industry as a whole. Now, let's head back here to the back. And there's Sam and Twitch. And talk about these extras, the Tremor that they have. And again, some of this drawn by Greg Capullo, so it's not just Todd McFarlane. Todd McFarlane comes back, of course, but Greg Capullo doing some of this. So all the way in the back is where you're going to find the cover gallery. However, the cover gallery is done in black and white at first. So you have the covers right here, all in black and white. And if you want the full colors, you get them right before the chapters. So including these right here. And then you get issue 12, 13. The only thing that I see that they don't tell you is who the actual cover artist is. But they tell you that at the very beginning, so I guess that's okay. 21, 22, 23, and the Mark Silvestri. Because Mark Silvestri did 1 month at Image. All the 7 creators decided to switch what book they were working on. So Silvestri came over here to Spawn, and then Tom McFarlane went over to Cyberforce. But then we get the art gallery, and this is really cool. This shows, like, the first time Todd McFarlane drew Spawn. Well, I don't think this is the very first art, but it's one from 1991. I assume by that little trademark down there. Now, one thing you're going to notice are the skulls. Now, the skulls, I remember when I was a kid, that was Before we had the internet, those were the rumors that it had to be a little bit of a delay because he had to redraw the skulls because Marvel saw that and were like, nah, that's Punisher. That was just a rumor. I don't know if... I never did get around to asking him because that was so long ago. Or maybe it was his own decision. You get some internal artwork in here. Most of it inked. You do get some sketches. But most of it is finished inks on pencils. And then you get the pinups all the way in the back. These are... Oh, this is from internal issues right there. But these are the pinups back here. The trade paperback covers, which are nice. And you also get the Origins collections, because they had brand new cover art. As well as the hardcovers, because the hardcovers had new cover art. So I'm glad that they kept those intact. And this one has 620 pages. Now, to compare it to the very first volume, let's go look at... Let's go back to the ending of issue 6, because I love that. They made a figure out of that. And the beginning of issue 7, so here it is compared to the size of this. This, of course, being the Origins hardcover. So it is bigger, of course. There's no frame around it. The way that the covers are collected are now on black instead of a white background. I kind of wish they had done this because, again, fingerprints. And then you get the cover. And there you go. Colors are a little more vibrant in this collection because they are using a different paper stock. This is a little bit thinner than this. This is heavier paper stock than what they were using for these Origins hardcovers. So the colors are a little more vibrant here. The words, of course, pop out a little more because, well, they are bigger. I mean, we are comparing the sizes here. And it's not like you get more artwork. It's just that the art is kind of blown up a little bit. For example, you actually get more artwork here. And this is minute. I swear nobody else is going to do this stupid comparison. But I just want to go thorough. For example, these two little pieces here show a little more art than up here. But that means that maybe the art shifted up, right? So let's take it down. Let's go down a little bit. And sure enough, you do get a little more of the U.S. Army box down here than you do this. A little more of the gun is what I should have said than you do here. It's things like that, I mean, does that really matter? Does that bother anybody? I don't think so. Most of the time, the actual pages are in frames like this, but then sometimes you get full pages like this. So that's volume 1. Now, the thing is that this deluxe edition claims to have more than any other collection ever before. But I remember in volume 1, I was really happy with the stuff that they had here. All the covers in black and white, and there is some bleed through in these type of paper stock that they're using here. I didn't notice in this new deluxe edition. But you also get these. You also get this piece of art right here. But you also get some of this. You get this piece of art. That was what we found in the back of the book. So you don't get that piece right there in pencil, but you do have it in ink. And you do have some original designs or some original concept or what the ending of that issue was supposed to be like. So this does have a little bit more than this does. But I was expecting maybe a lot more until I went back and remembered, oh yeah, there was a lot of this stuff in the back of these books. So let's go look at book number 2. Now I wanted to stop at this issue because I love the character design for the Anti-Spawn, but really it's the Redeemer's what he was named after later on because I guess Anti-Spawn is kind of a stupid name, but kind of give you an idea of what it looks like with the colors, right? A little more vibrant again. Here, for example, like his power he's using pops out a little bit more, and the art. A little more pipes, a little bit more pipes. Who doesn't need that in their life? And a little more ripples in the water. Nice. I did want to... Yeah, I love that. Look at that, man. No wonder Todd McFarlane found this guy and was like, hey, man, you want to stop drawing X-Force and come over to Image? Yeah, I guess that I forgot he did replace that symbol. The Anti-Spawn symbol, but here's what it looks like. All right, we're never going to get through this overview. We still got 4 books to go. So I won't be as thorough with those, but I did want to do a little comparison. Because again, claiming that this has more than ever before, I guess it's true. It's just, you expect a lot more maybe when you're word it like that. Actually, before we head back to the extra section, I did want to point out a misprint here in issue 23, where this page, the first page, is misprinted here on page 4, where the original one is supposed to look like this. This is from the deluxe edition. This is the way the page is supposed to look, but it looks like it's double printed, that page 1 here. And I cannot remember, but I want to say that's the way it was in the original printing of these books. Maybe that's why I decided to go with the hardcovers. Or it might have been the binding, because I remember my second volume had bad binding. But I did want to point that out, that there is a misprint here in issue 23. All right, now, so it does have all the covers again, the issue covers. Here, like for example, wanted to compare the paper stock here. So you have cover 21. Does have like a black frame around it instead of a white frame. And you see a little more bleed through from the paper stock in this. Because again, thinner paper. You see a little bit here, but honestly, I don't think they make paper thick enough unless it's matte that won't let you see a lot of art bleed through, especially if you're looking at black and white artwork. And then again, some internal pages here, like we saw previously. So these are collected in here. So really what you're gaining is just a couple of like sketches right there. This was previously collected in volume 1. Let's go through it. And that's the same as this collection here. So maybe a couple of extra pages is what you're getting of artwork. So if you love Todd McFarlane and you love his art in oversized format, then this is the book for you to get. Let's move on to volume 2. All right, so here is volume 2 again, different color of eye, but everything is the same, you know, with the exception of the volume 2 down there, which is a little hard to see, honestly. Wonder how people are storing their books. Spawn Origins Collection, Deluxe Edition Volume 2, collecting issues 26 through 50. Now we have Todd actually stepping back a little bit and letting Greg Capullo actually draw more and more of this. Basically, after issue 25, he was like, hey, you want to take over? Tony Danielle coming in and doing some artwork in here. Another introduction, this time around, talking a little bit about Volume 2, including the introduction by Greg Capullo to a previous trade paperback, speaking on the violence of the book. And again, telling you that this has not been touched, that the dialogue is the same, the colors are the same, everything is the same. There's the curse. So now we're introduced to a whole batch of new characters. We still have some of the original characters back. We get a little bit of retconning here with Chapel, because if you remember in the original Spawn first few issues, that Chapel was responsible for something huge that happens in Al Simmons' life. And in this, because Rob Liefeld is about to exit Image Comics and take his characters with him, including Youngblood, which includes Chapel, they were like, okay, maybe we need to retcon that. So it's funny that usually for comics, you know, sometimes it takes decades to start retconning stories. But with Spawn, it was like, yeah, Liefeld's leaving. We got to retcon this story that features the character of Chapel. Let's make someone else responsible for what happened. And that's exactly how that happened. This is Tony Danielle helping out Greg Capullo. That's Cygor right there. And helping out, of course, Todd McFarlane. Artwork being oversized, like you saw in the first one. We have the introduction of Tiffany, who is another angel warrior. Unlike Angela, who she calls some horrible names. And we get more deep into the story of Spawn and his powers. We have Greg Capullo back with Todd McFarlane inking. And here is the back of the book, showcasing the covers. Now, this could be my copy, so I don't want to freak anybody out, and I'm sure most people won't care. They just want this stuff in oversized format. That's all that matters to them. But one thing I immediately noticed, because I love having everything, I love the idea of, hey, you know, I'm upgrading to these. I no longer need this. I no longer need this trade paperback. I no longer need these hardcovers. One thing that I did notice is the lack of something, and again, I think it might just be my copy. Your copy could have it, so double check. This is volume 2. But we do have the Spawn Origins Collections trade paperback covers. Nice. You know, you would have volumes 5 through 8. And then you would have volumes 3 and 4 of the hardcovers. These right here. This is volume 3. But when you flip the page, and I triple checked. I mean, could be hidden somewhere in there. I don't think so, though. There is no volume 4 hardcover. This right here is what's missing. So instead, we get the intro by Greg Capullo explaining, you know, about the violence and the necessity of books like these as an escape. And it's a good intro, don't get me wrong. But as a guy that wants everything, where the hell's my volume 4 covers? Damn it. Oh well. Could you be just my copy? This one, again, has 620 pages and retails for $99.99. And volume 3. Again, the little skull patterns there. The skull there. The city landscape. Tom McFarlane Image Comics presents Spawn Origins Collection Deluxe Edition Volume 3. Now, when I was reading this in Volume 4, I'll show it here in a little bit, I thought I was having deja vu when I was reading this right here. And I'll explain why when I talk about Volume 4. But let's keep on going here. Again, the covers shows you a little glimpse, and then the full color cover. And then the actual issue in here. And hey, we get a Savage... Oh, that's right, Savage Dragon shows up in this particular issue. And we get, by this point, it is just Greg Capullo, if I'm not mistaken. Let's double check. Doing the pencils, and then all the inks by Tom McFarlane. But Brian Hogan stepping in to do the additional stories more and more throughout these. So there are a lot of toys that are based on the covers and the different Spawn costumes that he wears throughout here, based in this volume alone. So this might be a fan favorite for a lot of people. I preferably enjoyed Spawn when he's wearing his mask, his iconic mask. I love his mask. I think the design of him is awesome. We get a little more about Jason Wynn, and now Spawn is able to turn into a human because his magic is getting stronger. And what does that mean? And then we get a little bit of what's happening here. What is this live action stuff? That's because they're prepping for the live action Spawn movie. That's what's happening during this particular time. So this is, I assume, 1997, that particular year, that Spawn is about to hit the big screen. And it was a huge deal. I mean, the animated show and the movie. In here, you'll see the Freak. You'll see more of the homeless people and how big of a role they have to play in all of this. Now, let's look in the back here for some extras, as you see some covers there by Greg Capullo. And again, inks. Wish they would have more of the covers, like the actual progress of the covers. From thumbnail sketches to pencils to inks and then colors. And then we get, my gosh, the amount of details. I know this is inked, but this is just insanity. How did this guy keep a monthly schedule? That's crazy. And I just saw an interview where he said he doesn't want to do monthly books anymore. Greg Capullo, that is. Because he wants to, live his life. He doesn't want to just restrict himself to doing, what's it called? The monthly issues and just get drowned in it. So something you're going to notice, again, my copy maybe, is this right here. So after issue 65, page 11, you see issue 65, page 16, issue 65, page 13. So this is a mistake. This was supposed to be back there, I think. Because this is supposed to be here, and I don't know what happened. Like, it's printing errors. We've seen the same thing at DC. We've seen it at Marvel. And as long as it doesn't happen through the story, it sucks, but I'm okay with it. But this does have all the trades, including the 2 hardcover covers. So, yeah. Win some, you lose some. 712 pages. Now, the next volume is volume 4. This one is the one I was reading the introduction, because I love reading introductions. I wish that McFarlane had actually done the introduction for these, but it feels like it's Tom McFarlane Productions. Now you have Dwayne Turner stepping in to do a couple of issues. I love his artwork, and it actually fits that type of style that McFarlane loves. So much so that I think he went on to do a couple of miniseries. Not Hellspawn, but maybe Medieval Spawn. I can't remember which series he worked on. But this introduction It's the exact same introduction that we had in Deluxe Edition Volume 3, and I'm like, did they just copy and paste it and then change a couple of the words? No, they didn't even change the words. This says Spawn Origins Collection Deluxe Edition Volume 3. And at that moment is when I let out the big F. I was like, oh no, they just reprinted everything that was in Volume 3 in here. So I was like, I went back, I looked at the outside of the book, and it's sure enough, it said Volume 4, and then I looked at this, 76 through 100. We're good. Whew. You can mess up the introduction, just don't mess up the inside of the book. So this does collect issues 76 to 100, leading up to this huge war that has actually been coming since issue number 1. We knew it was coming, but it does change the character of Spawn for a while. So actually, let's look at these Dwayne Turner issues, because he does 76 and 77, I think. So Capullo's still supplying the covers, but it is Dwayne Turner supplying the internal artwork with some inks by, of course, Todd McFarlane. And Danny Mickey. I believe Danny Mickey by now is stepping in and doing a lot of... Oh, no, he's doing all the inks. Okay. So at this point, he's doing all the inks with some additional inks here by Scott Kobayashi and Todd McFarlane for issue 100. So yes, this is Dwayne Turner. See what I mean? Like, his style really fits that. Love that. That is an awesome piece right there. And again, leading up to issue 100 with a huge fight and beautiful books. The problem with these books is that you're going to have to stretch the spine. I don't care how good you are at opening these books up and you think the spines are going to be fine. The paper stock they're using for this is pretty thick and it's heavy and it's a big book. So the weight of it, by the way, all the issue 100 variant covers are here intact in black and white. And let's go back here a little bit when we get to the color. In color. So worry not, they are in here. But the paper stock that they're using in here really weighs a lot. So, unfortunately, this is one of those moments that I wish we found a kind of middle ground. You know, I said like DC uses a lot of glue down there. That really helps secure the books with the sewn binding. These are all sewn binding. But if you don't stretch the spine, that could cause issues later on. It could, obviously sagging, that's going to happen regardless. But it might cause where, like, the papers come off of the ribbon and, like, the page bunches start coming off. Because there's not that much glue for something this thick here. And what's keeping it together is the sewn binding. And it does a good job. But you're going to have to stretch that spine. If you want to see how to do that, I've made a video on how to do it. I know it's ridiculous, right? But honestly, that helped out a lot. It helps prolong the life of these books. And you're paying a lot of money for these things. You want to keep them intact as much as possible. White gloves and everything. Alright, let's look at Volume 5. So Volume 5 is the final volume. All the other ones were $100. This one is $99.99. That might be the new price point. I'm not sure. There's a cityscape, again, more colors, and usually using the color of whatever the eye is. Tom McFarlane Image Comics presents Origins Deluxe Edition 5, 101 to 125. Angel Medina steps in now as your regular penciler. Another guy that I thought that actually makes sense. Ever since I saw him in Warlock in the Infinity Watch, I was like, his artwork is perfect for McFarlane. The introduction here is a great introduction, and what gives me a lot of hope is the right here. They have plans of Volume 5. Because keep in mind, the last time that Volume 4 came out, they tell you right here, was in 2014. This line was dead, and when I asked Todd, the Todd father, about this, he was like, maybe, But I insisted that there's a whole new bunch of us that are collecting books, and we would love to see reprints of this. We would love to see reprints of the hardcovers. And the first song was, of course, the compendiums. I was like, oh, that's a good start. But here, they talk about how this is a big deal. They talk about, maybe going all the way to issue 301. But the biggest thing that I saw, now that's, of course, not set in stone. Anything could happen. The sales could drop. Right here, they have plans within plans. A new robust trade and graphic novel program is in the works to bring you all the Spawn you can handle. New collections, new series, more coming your way. That's, to me, as the home of collected editions, as a guy that loves this stuff, that's awesome. Now, one of the biggest questions I get on my channel is this worth getting? Is Spawn worth it? I looked at it. It's got beautiful artwork. I agree. It does. I'm not the biggest fan of the story. I never have been. So, in order for me to tell you to go and get something, I would suggest getting something like the Compendium and trying it out. This is the biggest bang for your buck. This is $60 and 50 issues. Yes, there's no extras. There's not even covers in these. But you get the story. And, to check it out. To see if it's for you. Or get one of those old trade paperbacks to see if it's for you. Because it's just one of those stories that I think a lot of people dive into because of the artwork. And I realize that a lot of people do love it because it does have that edgy aspect that we loved about the 90s. But for new readers these days, I always tell them to try it out in a cheaper format. Don't dive into these $100 books because they are pretty expensive. And that's just being honest. And I try to do that with Marvel Omnis, DC Omnis. It doesn't matter because I think, you work hard for your money. And the last thing I want is to suggest something and people being disappointed. That's why I have the hardest time when people ask me my personal opinion on stories. Just because I love something doesn't mean they're going to, or vice versa. Plenty of times I don't like something and people love it. This being a prime example. There are plenty of my viewers that love this stuff. Can't get enough of it. Want this all collected. All 300 and plus issues now collected in this format. Come on, Todd. Where you at? This one here has 624 pages. And again, retailing for $99.99. So, it is available everywhere. This is the flash, or no, this is the weird issue where Spawn's trapped as a superhero in this golden age type of story. Let's look at the extras here in the back. So the stuff in here has been collected before. Like I said, 50 issues in here. Here we have 150, all the way up to issue 150. All the things that are in here are collected in this particular format. But this is just in bigger, nicer formats. So you really gotta like Spawn. And even if you don't like the story, you gotta really like his artwork to get something like this. To me, comic books, graphic novels are a medium where, it's either the story or in the art. And sometimes the art carries the story. Sometimes the story carries the art. I can think of several stories that I enjoy that I am not a fan of the artwork. And I can think of several stories that I love the art and I'm not a fan of the actual story. So let's make sure that this one does have the 2 hardcover. It does! Alright! Who knows? Maybe that was just a mistake on my book. Again, sewn binding. Thick, glossy paper that they're using for these. And about $100 for each one. And the size comparison, of course, let's do that. Let's do a quick size comparison to something that is we'll do it with this book right here. Because this is your traditional size of single issues. So again, these don't have any covers to compare it to, but I did want to compare this. This is the size, the trim size of a standard size comic book. So if you're getting it in single issues, this is how much bigger the art will be. Man, Angel Medina just coming out swinging big with his art. Colors are just a little bit darker. I don't want to use the word vibrant on these because these are really good. So it looks like they're using the same masters, but it shows up a little bit better with the paper stock they're using here, because the paper stock they use for these compendiums are these thin, glossy papers. Okay, I think that's it. Yeah, that, as they say, is that. If you're interested in purchasing these books, don't forget to check out our sponsor, cheapgraphicnovels.com, your online home for graphic novels and collected editions up to 50% off cover price. They have excellent shipping and prompt and helpful service. Check out their bargain deals for up to 90% off cover price. And don't forget that CGN also takes pre-orders. That way you don't miss out on the hottest releases. And they are currently running a special promotion for you Minties. If you're a first-time customer, after receiving your order confirmation email, reply back to that email and let them know Near Mint Condition sent you their way. They will then apply a free shipping promotional credit to your next order in the US. Cheap Graphic Novels, your source for the hottest books with the kind of deep discount, quality shipping, and customer service that will keep you coming back for more. That was the content, the page count, and build of these books. Let me know in the comments down below if you are picking these up, if you already have the hardcover origins, or you have the trade paperbacks, or you're going the compendium route. I would love to know all that stuff in the comments down below. If you have any more questions, leave your questions down below. Don't forget to smash that like button, subscribe, and ring that bell for notifications to let you know when our videos are going live. We are on Patreon and Spreadshop. Amazing ways to support the channel if you can do so. And on Patreon, we have different tiers that meet your needs. So everyone stay healthy and safe out there. Much love.